Mergent Online provides critical business and financial data on publicly listed companies worldwide. The databases scan global equity fundamentals, equity pricing, corporate actions, and fixed income. Each of these categories is closely monitored to ensure the highest accuracy. The databases contain detailed financial information on more than 35,000 U.S. public companies and non-U.S. public companies from over 100 countries. In addition, it also has information on more than 20,000 U.S. municipal bond insurers. That would be someone like the city of Virginia Beach. It has extensive data on corporate bonds, dividends, and corporate actions, and of course, unit investment trust. Customers can search the database at home or in the library. This is the basic search for Mergent Online. It enables you to find a company by company name, ticker symbol, or you can search for a list of companies by several different options. One of them is the primary SIC code. A code that you may not know about is the MIC code. That is the Mergent Industry Classification Code, and it's a numerical code that was developed by Mergent to organize basically all the companies in their database into industries. The code, if you don't know the code, if you haven't used the database before, not a problem. There's a lookup table, and all you have to do is select the MIC option, and then you click on the Use Code Lookup link. So it's pretty simple. You can search really easily a company name or ticker symbol. You'll notice above the search box where you would type the company name or ticker symbol, you'll notice that there are some check boxes: U.S. company database active, U.S. company database inactive, international company database active, international company database inactive, private company search. Okay. The difference between inactive and active is this. Active means that the company is currently being traded on a U.S. exchange or an international exchange, depending on which one you check. Inactive means that that company is not currently traded, but, however, they once were a publicly traded company on either a U.S. exchange or an international exchange. So you can actually search for that, which is pretty cool. You'll also notice that you have the option to do a D&B private company search, which is that Dun & Bradstreet private company search, which is really nice because sometimes it can be a lot harder to find information about private companies. So overall, the basic search is laid out pretty simply. You'll notice some other things. For example, there's a calendar to the right-hand side, and some other types of searches that you can do. Basically, enter in your information and click on the Go button, and your search is done. This is the advanced search. It looks a lot like the basic search. The first thing you notice is that you can select from one of the boxes or all of the boxes, active or inactive, search for U.S. or international company database. You can also search the D&B private company database. If you let your eye travel across the screen there to the far right, you see a country profile. From the drop-down menu, you can select a country, and what comes back to you is a map loaded with all kinds of rich statistics. Right above that, you see something called My Mergent Tools. If you select a plus arrow there, you get a listing of company analysis along with a listing of executives. Now, you can load a previous search here. So when your session, you can have all kinds of searches available to you. Now, what's really neat is on the search itself, it's divided by sections: corporate information, executives, financials, industry codes, pricing, ratios, textual search, and indexing. What's really neat about this is that underneath each search, you have all kinds of different ways that you can filter your search. You'll notice when we select corporate information that you've got a bunch of different things listed there. When you select the plus, it adds that filter to your corporate information search. So if I click on the plus, I get my company name. If I pick on the plus for state or city, then I can filter by that as well. And it's kind of like that old-fashioned Boolean logic and or, which is really neat. The executive tab, you can search for executives by a certain age, less than, equal to, greater than, equals. So if you wanted to search for all executives in the database that are less than 50 years of age, you could do that. On the financials, well, yes, let me just say, when you make a search that big, you're going to get thousands and thousands of matches. So you're probably going to want to filter that down a little bit by salary, by title. Why would you use that, or how could you use it? Say you're looking to find out all the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies that are under the age of 40. That'd be a real quick, easy way to do it. On the financials, you can find out lots of great stuff about a company. You can find out their total assets. You can find out their inventory. Why would you be looking for this stuff? Because when you go to invest directly in a corporation stock, there's a lot of information that you need to know. And a lot of people aren't just satisfied with the value line reports. This gives you a lot more information. Industry codes, that's pretty self-explanatory. We already talked about the MIC code. The others there are just standard industries. Pricing, now this is the actual stock pricing. You know, what was the maximum, what was the average, that kind of thing. Ratios, any kind of ratio that you want to get, like your operating ratio for return on investment. Last thing I wanted to tell you about is the textual search. This one I think is really super duper cool. You can actually choose one of the filters. The filters are business, history, joint revenues, and property. And you can do a keyword or phrase search in that filter. So for example, you were looking for an individual in the business history of an industry or a corporation. This would be the way to find it. Pretty neat. All right, and that's the advanced search. Just wanted to briefly mention the executive search. The executive search can be really useful for finding out information about company leaders. What's really neat is that you can search by many, many different types of filters. The company name, their geographic location, including state, city, and zip code, the year the company was incorporated or founded, their stock exchange, their state of incorporation, their country of incorporation, the number of employees. It just goes on and on and on. Okay, so why would you want to do this? Leadership is really important. It can make or break the success of a company. When people invest, they need to know all kinds of information about what's going on if they're directly investing in a company through their stock offerings. This is going to be different than, investing in a mutual fund. There, in that instance, you're going to want to know about the leadership of the fund. You're going to want to know who's in charge of that fund, what their success rate is, in addition to the actual performance of the fund. You may want to know, like the history of the fund manager's record over the lifetime of their career. So that just trying to give you an idea of how an executive search could be used for an investor. It can also be used for job hunters. It's a really powerful tool. The next tab is government findings. Now, this is one of my favorite ones. Okay, this is really cool. You can find out if somebody has been bad. Basically, you can search an industry or a company with today, the last 30 days, the last 90 days, the last 12 months, and find out what kind of filings they've done. They don't have to be bad to file. It could be something as simple as a registration. It could be something, some sort of proxy. Or it could be some sort of tax-related filing or some sort of corporate action, even an annual report. Say, for example, we wanted to find an annual report for Walmart or Target or some company along those lines. We could go to Edgar Online and we could go to some other places out there on the internet, but we don't have to do that because we have the government filings search right within the Mergent online database, and it's highly effective. Now, the only limitations you're going to have is the date range. What date range does the database cover? But overall, it's a really cool, fun little tool. Okay, this is the search results that I got for doing a company search on Gap Inc. You'll notice the filing date and the filing type. So the filing type is 11K. The filing date is June 29th of this year. Tells me how many pages it has, the number it goes into the database, and then it lets me view it in several different formats. And I can select if I want it to be in an HTML, so it just wants to display as a web page, or it can come out as a Word document, or as an Excel, or as a PDF. What's really cool is if I select the Excel document, then I can take this information because it's in spreadsheet form, and if I'm an investor, then I can take it and manipulate the information. I can copy it and paste it into spreadsheets that I already have going on. Okay, now Form 11K is an annual report of employee stock purchase savings plans, basically. I knew that in advance, so the format that I chose to download was a Word file because I wanted it to be nice and tight and neat and easy to read. If I'd chosen the format to be an Excel file, it would have been a lot harder to read. Okay, next up is the report search. Once again, I searched for the gap, and you'll notice when I started typing gap, it brought me a list of choices that it had available. When I selected Gap Inc. from the search, this is the results page that I got. At this point, you'll notice on the far hand side, for the report search, way over at the far right side, I've got a PDF icon listed for stock reports. If I select that, I'm going to get a full equity report that looks like something you might find from Value Line. If I select at the far left the company name, you'll see that in a hypertext link. I'd get everything I could possibly want to know about the Gap. I get all the company details, pricing, business, key executive, key financials, everything I could possibly want to know. Last but not least is the ownership search. Just like the other tabs, I did a search for the Gap Inc. and I got suggestions as I typed. So before I hit the submit button, I knew exactly what I was going to search for, and this is my results screen. You'll notice at the far left, I have a hypertext link, the Gap Inc. If I select that link, I am taken to a web page, the same exact web page that we saw in the screen before, just the ownership tab. If I select at the far right under country, United States, what happens is a PDF document will open, and inside that PDF, I will get a country profile complete with a map, an economic overview with, key economic figures, all kinds of good information about the industry that the gap is in, import export information, fancy charts, a lot of good stuff, and wrap it all up with securities trade information for that particular country as well. So that wraps it up with the ownership tab. Take some time and play with Mergent online. You'll find that it's a really easy to use suite of databases that's very specific, and it should help your customers when they're researching industries, leaders within those industries, corporations, or even government entities. Thanks a lot.